Final reader tonight came all the way from New Hampshire today, drove through a snowstorm, so we have to be extra awesomely nice to her. I also want to say that Kristin will be teaching at the retreat this summer, so as I said or mentioned earlier, so if you have any questions for her, now is the time to ask her in person. So, Kristin Waterfield Duisberg received her undergraduate degree from Bowdoin College and her master's degree in creative writing from Boston University. She has taught creative writing at Boston University and the Boston-based Grub Street Writers Workshop, and worked as a writer for J.P. Morgan, Massachusetts General, and the University of New Hampshire. Having spent most of her life in New England, she returned recently to the seacoast New Hampshire college town where she grew up, where she lives with her husband, 2 children, and 2 exceedingly hairy golden retrievers. That's good. They're good. They're hairy, right? They're very hairy. After is her second novel. She is also the author of the critically acclaimed book, The Good Patient. Please welcome our special guest, Kristin Waterfield Duisberg.
Thank you all. Everybody except Tori. I hate going after somebody who's funny. Don't appreciate that at all. And actually, it's interesting. I was talking with Richard a little bit before we started, and one of the interesting things about this book is it's sort of 2 stories. It's a younger wife who was recently diagnosed with breast cancer, and her older husband, who was a boy in Germany during World War II. And he's really on the other side of the coin from the characters you've talked about. He grew up in a family of Nazi sympathizers, and he struggled more than anything really with his guilt over his childhood. So it's always interesting to hear the other side of the story. And so since I can't do funny, I figured I'd at least try to do something a little on the light side. So what I'm going to read is a scene that's actually toward the later part of the book between this older father, his name is Martin, and their young daughter, who's named Audrey, who is kind of a quirky kid. She's about 10 and she's really struggling to sort of get along in the world socially and make sense of it. And it's just a scene between the 2 of them. He's a cardiologist, and he's just come home after a patient has died. So that's light, right?
Yeah.
At home, Martin found Audrey alone at the kitchen table, a heaping bowl of ice cream in front of her. Chocolate, judging by the dark line of it around her lips, the little beard of it that ended in the dimple of her chin. She started as her father entered the room, giving him an anxious, guilty look. "Mom said I could make myself some ice cream," she said. Martin lowered himself into the chair to her right, suppressing a grin. "And so you have," he said. The bowl Audrey had chosen was a soup plate, mounted with easily twice the amount of ice cream her mother ever served her. There was chocolate syrup and the milky remnants of what Martin assumed was once a large quantity of whipped cream. A few colored sprinkles clung to the side of the bowl, their bright pinks and greens and yellows leaching out of them in little penumbra. A sundae. Audrey nodded, scooping up another mouthful. "Mom didn't say I couldn't." Martin looked around the kitchen. The ice cream carton still sat on the counter, a large silver Hostess spoon leaking chocolate beside it. The whipped cream canister lay on its side in a little bed of sprinkles. An unopened jar of maraschino cherries sat apart from the rest. New, Martin figured, the lid too tight for Audrey's small hands to untwist. "Where is your mother?" "Upstairs, I think. She said she had a headache and was going to lie down for a while." Martin picked up a spoon, left over from dinner, he supposed, and turned it from side to side, idly noting his inverted image. "Well, your mother's been pushing herself very hard lately. I think she sometimes forgets everything she's been through in the last 2 years. We'll let her rest a bit." Audrey wiped her mouth with the back of her hand, smearing chocolate across her cheek. Martin raised his spoon above her soup plate. "May I?" "I could make you your own," she offered. "I think—" Martin began and then stopped. He had been about to tell Audrey she had more than enough ice cream in her bowl to share, but then he'd caught the expression of reluctance on her face. There was no harm in letting her eat the whole dessert herself, or at least letting her try to. "I think that sounds like a splendid idea," he said instead, "just as long as you promise not to tell your mom I had ice cream for dinner." While Audrey spooned the now soupy ice cream into her father's dish, squirted the whipped cream and added sprinkles, Martin tidied up the detritus of her efforts. He threw out the empty ice cream carton and wiped the counter and picked up the jars of cherry to put them back. The lid came off with little effort. Audrey nodded happily when Martin asked if she thought they should add some to their sundaes. "You know why they're called Sundays, don't you?" Martin asked his daughter when they were seated again. "I think so," Audrey said, tipping her head to the side. "Actually, no. The story I learned is that it was the way ice cream shops in the Midwest served ice cream sodas on Sundays when soda water couldn't be sold." "It couldn't? Why not?" "It was considered sinful." Martin wiggled his eyebrows at his daughter. Water with carbonation was much too wicked to be served on the Sabbath. "That's funny." Audrey licked the back of her spoon. "I guess it makes sense." She thought for a minute, then added, "So many words are weird, though." "How so?" "Well, like right at dinner. I asked Mom if I was going to keep going to Royal River over the summer, and she said she was still on the fence about it. I figured that meant something good, because fences and riding pretty much go together, but she said it meant she hadn't decided." Martin nodded, surprised and pleased to hear that Nina was considering giving up on that barn, the thought of which he still didn't like. When you're on the fence, it means you could climb off on one side or the other. One side is yes, the other side is no. Martin suddenly found himself feeling terribly magnanimous. "I'm sure we could find a place right around here where you could ride if your mother decides that was too far to go." "But I like Royal River," Audrey scowled. "I like Deanna, my riding teacher. Tinkertoy would miss me." Martin realized he had miscalculated. "That saying," he continued quickly, "on the fence, is something called an idiom. It's a colorful way of saying something that could be said in plainer words and that can't be figured out just by the word's literal meaning. When I first was learning English, I tried to memorize all the idioms, but there were too many, and I found after a while I was able to figure them out from their context. I won't forget, though, the first one I encountered. Someone told me I had a chip on my shoulder, and I actually turned and looked." Martin could laugh about that now. To make things worse, I was coming from England and then Canada, where chip meant French fry, so I thought someone was telling me that I had somehow gotten a French fry on my shoulder. Audrey erupted into giggles, clasping her hands against her mouth to hold them back. "Oh, Dad," she said, "you did not." Martin spread his hands wide. I did." "So what does it actually mean?" "It means to be angry or argumentative, which I apparently was." "Chip on my shoulder," Audrey murmured softly, rocking herself in her seat. "So, have a cow? Is that one too?" "It is," Martin agreed. "Can you guess what it means?" Audrey turned her spoon around and around in her almost empty ice cream bowl, her face scrunched up with effort. "Don't be such a baby," she finally guessed. "Willow sat with Heather Moran instead of me at lunch again today. And when I tried to get her to change her mind, she told me, 'Don't have a cow, it's only lunch.'" "You were close," Martin said. "It means don't get so upset." Audrey sighed, and Martin pushed his ice cream bowl away. "Don't be discouraged," he told his daughter. "Some of them are hard, but you'll figure it out. Some of them actually make sense, though, when you take them apart a little bit, and it can be like a puzzle decoding them." "Really?" Audrey eyed her father skeptically. "Like what?" "Well," Martin extended his leg out underneath the table, buying time while he thought. His left knee was stiff. "To continue with the example of cows, chew on it. That's a phrase you'll often hear people use. 'Let me chew on it and get back to you.' It means to think something over." "I've heard that one. Mom uses it sometimes. But I don't see what it has to do with cows." "Well, not yet you don't. But listen to this. The big word that means to think something over or reflect on it is ruminate. And do you know what the name is for animals that have multi-part stomachs for digesting, like cows and camel and deer? They're called ruminants, or ruminators. They eat their food part way, in essence, then regurgitate it and chew it over again to make it easier for their digestive system to absorb. So to ruminate is to chew something over, turn a thought over and over again, the way a cow processes its food." Martin rubbed his hands together, absurdly pleased with himself. That was when he had figured out on his own in medical school. The connection between the phrase and the Latin root word ruminare, like a light, had shined down on him. Audrey blew her breath out noisily, however, and glared down at the table. "That is not easy either. Just because you know everything doesn't mean I do too, you know. I'll never figure them all out." Martin understood his daughter's frustration, imagined the intimidation she felt. It was a feeling he knew all too well. You don't have to learn them all. You just have to make a little note to yourself in your head when somebody says something that sounds a bit off to you. Martin gave a little chuckle. "What's more, I'd like to correct the notion that I know everything. One time years ago, when my 3 boys were little, I asked their mother if she would fix some smash for dinner, because I loved it so." It took a while for all of us to figure out that what I meant to say was squash. It was summertime, and I wanted to eat some squash. I'd mistranslated the word I knew in German, and boy did my sons not let me forget it. For months they'd say, "Hey Dad, how about tonight we have some smash?" Audrey looked at her father, her face serious. It sometimes shocked him how much she looked like childhood pictures of him. The same light hair, the same dimple, the same blue eyes, and right now the same mind, too, as she took her father's hand across the table. "Poor you," she said. "I don't think that's so funny." "Well, thank you, Audrey. I appreciate your sympathy." "You're welcome, Dad," she said. Absently, she twirled one long lock of blonde hair in a spiral and let it go. "You know," she added, "I think I might be German, too."